Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I am one of your hosts, Mr. BoomStick XL. So we are, of course, awaiting Fuzzy Belvedere, the best bald head in the business. He should be here momentarily. And we do have a guest joining us, reprising his role as a very opinionated good friend of the show. That is Chaos Lounge, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to show up around half an hour after the show starts. As you can see, I am really enjoying the virtual backdrops that I've been adding to the shows. One, you don't get a chance to see the peacocks in the background, so good for you, right, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, it's a virtual green screen, so it's not perfect, but it works. But hey, man, what a weekend! Holy cow, we got Friday. We got I don't know about you. I mean, listen, folks, I'm not a negative Nancy. I have watched that 13-minute gameplay trailer of Halo Campaign Evolved about 6 times, and I'm probably going to watch it another 6. My God, does the Unreal Engine look freaking amazing? But here, well, Fuzzy Belvedere is here. Fuzzy, what's going on, dude? How you feeling? Welcome back.
Feeling pretty good. Glad to be here with you. Sorry about running a little late.
Oh, that's all right, dude.
Man, it's exciting news we're going to get to talk about today, so can't wait.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Honestly, I don't know if you got a chance to take a look at the DM. We got breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking news, and it literally is a game changer. We're going to get into what Jez Corden has just dropped. In fact, he's been busy as all hell because he didn't only just drop that information, which we're going to go over, but he also talked about a partner preview event that was rumored, and that is happening in November. Plus, of course, we're going to keep it a buck here, ladies and gentlemen. Look, like I said before, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but my goodness, Fuzzy Belvedere, the conversation around Halo Campaign Evolved has been nothing short of egregious. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I personally don't understand how you could look at what we saw and be like, nah, fam, I want to go back to 2001. You know what? 2001 is calling. You should probably go there and stay in 2001. I almost feel like, the Denzel Washington when he slams the door. That is the toxic Halo community, which I cannot stand. They are disgusting. Nothing makes them happy. And I actually saw hashtag something about no sprint. I saw it online. I don't know if it has a big following. It probably doesn't, folks. If you are upset about sprinting in Halo, maybe gaming isn't your thing, man. I don't know what to say. But look, Fuzzy Belvedere, as we await Chaos Lounge, as we do when he's going to show up, because he's coming from work and obviously he's in the other side of the pond. So we'll get his thoughts and theories as you and I continue to just break down this breaking news. Let's actually get into the article here. Now, of course, I will add this to the show notes, and this is breaking news, so I haven't added it as of yet, but I'm going to probably do it while we are podcasting. Some of the guests are going to be talking, but this report comes the way of Jez Corden of Windows Central. It was posted only 2 hours ago, Fuzzy Belvedere, and chat, and it says Microsoft's ambitious new Xbox, your entire Xbox console library, the full power of Windows PC gaming, and get this, ladies and gentlemen, no multiplayer paywall. This is not only a game changer, it might be a backbreaker for Sony. And I'll get into my thoughts on why I think that is, Fuzzy, but I do want to read a couple of excerpts from Jez Corden's article, and it starts off by saying the new Xbox platform is said to be a premium experience, and now we have some details on what it'll look like. Well, Jez goes on to say, and of course he's being a little bit facetious here, in all it should have been all caps, Xbox is dead. Long live Xbox, as the saying goes. And of course, I mean, that's how it's been the last couple of weeks. They're back and now they're not. It's crazy to me, and that depends on who you listen to. If you are listening to the trolls of the internet, uh, Halo is dead, Gears is dead, Forza is dead, everything is dead, Xbox is dead. It's just it is become hilarious to watch the flip floppers. And again, we don't do the names thing here mostly because I don't want to embarrass anybody. I know people talk about me, and that's fine, but I'm also a grown man at 55, so I'm not playing these schoolyard games. But Fuzzy, there's a lot in this article. And I think there are things that we've talked about already. I think there are things that are new to the conversation. But I think that the thing that jumps off for me, off the page here, and this is a question and some commentary that the games community has been having, and the conversation really has been a really thought provoking one. If this next Xbox is going to be more PC than Xbox, where it's going to have the ability to have Steam and good old games and Epic Game Store and play all of your games as well as the Play Anywhere stuff, is it really an Xbox? Well, from what we understand, it's going to look and run like your traditional Xbox. Whatever you're comfortable with calling an Xbox underneath your TV, Fuzzy, is what it's going to more than likely look like. What it's going to act like, well, that's a little different. And again, this is a really big deal. And this is where I kind of want to, put the focus onto PlayStation. Now, as we know, ladies and gentlemen, PlayStation, when it comes to console sales, is the market leader. They have shipped over 80 million, which is incredibly impressive. There is no one that can deny that 80 million of anything is not worthy of saying, wow. I know you're going to get some pushback on, each community. It's going to be, well, it's shipped versus bought, and how many are in warehouses. Look, folks, I'm not going to get into the minutia of that. They said they shipped over 80 million. Well, that's what the number is, right? I know, Fuzzy, on Friday you specifically said about the 20 million series consoles that it goes down by millions almost every week. It's gone from 35, 36, 38 million to as low as no, it's only sold 19 million. It's hilarious, to be honest with you. But what stands out here, and I think when you look at how Sony has structured their online service, and there's room for some criticism there. I know you've personally talked about this, where their online saves, their cloud saves, are literally hidden behind an $80 paywall. Now, the $80 paywall that I'm referring to is what you have to pay to simply play online with your friends. And while you're there, you're getting the benefit of these cloud saves, which is, pretty ridiculous. But again, this is not an attack on PlayStation Plus. That's not what this conversation's about, ladies and gentlemen. What I'm trying to do is kind of use some context and paint the picture. So, like I always say, please walk with me on this. Now, we have heard since the ABK deal that Xbox was considering, and I use that word, considering removing the paywall, meaning that you would have to pay for online gaming, meaning that if you want to play with your friends, you have to have one of their services. Now, the big conversation that has come out of this incredible community has been, wait a second, Boom. If this is going to look like a PC and act like a PC, well, if I'm on PC right now, or I'm even on my Xbox Ally, you don't have to pay to play online. It's a Windows PC. Well, according to this story, and again, there's a lot of meat on the bones here, but where I kind of want to take our attention, Fuzzy, is on the paywall, because as I mentioned to open up this conversation, I think this does put Sony's back to the wall a little bit. And here's why. Now, people that are going to still play on their Xbox One X or S or their series consoles when next generation apparently gets here, and the rumor is 2027, and there's going to be millions of people that are just not going to have the money to move to these big consoles unless, of course, the OEM devices come in way cheaper, which we think that's what the plan is going to be. Those gamers who are playing on these older consoles are going to continue to pay for their online. The same way anyone that is on PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 4 Pro or even PlayStation 5 will pay for their service to play with their friends. Now, of course, free-to-play games on PlayStation and recently on Xbox, that's a thing. So if you want to play Fortnite, if you want to play Apex Legends or any of these free-to-play joints, you're still good. But where I think there's a line that is going to be, and I'm very interested, Fuzzy, to see how this blows up, because if what Jez Corden is reporting, and I'm going to read it verbatim before I hand you the microphone, happens or comes to fruition, it's going to put a significant amount of pressure on Sony. Because what have I been saying? What have you specifically been saying, Fuzzy? The PlayStation 6, though it's going to be a very powerful next-gen console, no argument there, it's going to be another PlayStation. Now, you can take that as being salt or not. I don't think it is. It's going to be powerful, yes, but it's going to be just a more powerful PlayStation 5. It's not going to be doing what Xbox is doing. I think that they are at least a generation behind on Xbox. And if the next generation Xbox comes out and it is a PC hybrid, that means that they are going to have Xbox Game Pass, and that is going to be your service for your day-and-date games. But what you won't be paying for is online, because that is apparently being removed. Let me read the excerpt here, ladies and gentlemen, and Fuzzy. Jez Corden goes on to say this, and I quote, "Right now, I'm told the current plan is for the next Xbox specifically to have no paywall for multiplayer. It wouldn't make a lick of sense for a PC to have paid multiplayer, particularly since it would create a strong incentive for players to simply install Steam instead of the use of the Xbox ecosystem on the device for online games. It remains to be seen if that plan actually plays out into reality, though. And of course, again, this is what he was told. Is it going to happen? Well, if they want to sell you a PC hybrid Xbox, it's probably going to happen. Fuzzy Belvedere, this is breaking news, and this could be, all pun intended, a huge game changer for where people play their games. Let's get your thoughts, man.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we've been calling for them to consider doing for the longest time was eliminating that paywall. And they've done that for the free-to-play games, which, PlayStation did that, I think, prior. And it took a while for Xbox to kind of get on board with that as well. But if you're moving into that PC space where they don't pay for online, then you're going to have to figure something out, especially if that's the whole direction that you're moving towards, where you're blurring the line between console and PC. If you're trying to attract more PC players into your ecosystem, the last thing they're going to want to do is pay for online when they can just about play everywhere else without having to pay for it. And if you now give a taste of some of the console, players that picked up the Xbox Ally, then they're going to want the same thing. They're not going to want to pay for that online, considering that part of those that share the ecosystem don't. And they've kind of hidden that PC Game Pass option on the site. It's still available. If you're subscribed, you can still continue paying for it, but that's probably going to morph into something else, especially considering that all the other tiers offer PC and cloud in the mix. So it's one of those things where they can't have their own double standard where they charge one group and then secretly don't charge the other group kind of thing. So they would have to evolve at some point on how that works out. And I think the big thing is the thing that you're going to want to subscribe to is going to be their version of Game Pass, depending on the different tiers, whether you want day and date or if you just want a full catalog of 200 to 300 plus games that aren't including the day and dates and things along those lines. And I think considering how EA has worked for over the years and how Ubisoft Classics has also worked for over the years, they're bound to have something along those lines. That'll be like their bare minimum, where at least if you're new to the Xbox ecosystem, you'll already have like a starter library that you can kind of browse through and get accustomed to some of the first party titles that are a few years older or at least more than a year old from when it was originally released. And I think that probably makes the most sense. And as far as, like you said, it's going to put some pressure on PlayStation in the fact that they still want to have a PC app and PC store. That's an area that they see that there could be a tremendous amount of growth as far as with their current titles. The timeline between when it comes out on PlayStation versus when it comes out on PC seems to be shortening and shortening with each subsequent release kind of thing. So if they're still charging for their online, which it's funny, I remember back in the day where a lot of people, actually, when I was a PlayStation guy, it was like, oh, we don't have to pay for online, but Xbox Live does. Although, be it that party chat and things along those lines really made sense for them to do that, and everybody was like, oh, PlayStation's the greatest. We don't have to pay for online. And then the PS4 generation, it's like, oh, wait, we forgot we left money on the table, so we're going to start charging for the online. So now, if their biggest competitor, in the sense of as far as for your dollars, is not charging for online anymore because they're kind of moving into this PC space, it's going to kind of make sense for them to look at other options, whether it be their premium tiers for like access to older games or your cloud saves and things. There's going to be something that's going to have to change as far as when it comes to what they're charging for, because if they're trying to attract more PC players on that side of things and they don't really have their own device to do so, they're going to want to at least look at how they rephrase what they're billing you for monthly, instead of it being online access, it being like a back catalog or some other features of streaming or something to that effect that makes more sense moving forward. But it's definitely going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it, considering if more of the money is going to the games as far as Game Pass or a subscription or access to more games, whether it's some of the classics and things like that. I think that's probably the better way to go moving forward if everything eventually is becoming a PC, let's say.
I have another little nugget of thought here, which is pretty interesting. It just dawned on me when you were talking. So, and again, folks, I'm not console warring here. I'm literally asking an adult question, right? Right now, the running conversation since Halo was announced for PS5, and I know that's a backbreaker for a lot of people, man. If your feelings, I'll put it this way, if you're feeling a type of way over that, I get it. I was there 2 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to front. I've accepted that they're gone multi-plat. That means everything. It just is what it is. It's not going to muck up my excitement for Combat Evolved being redone on Unreal Engine 5. It's just not. I honestly cannot wait to get to that topic because I want to just gush with excitement. I mean, I'm just so excited for what I saw, and a bit disappointed in the traditionalists of the Halo community. I don't know what they want. I don't think they know what they want. We're going to get into it, but surrounding that conversation is once again a lot of the trolls, a lot of the gaming media are asking, what do I need an Xbox for? I gotta say, who I think I lost a little bit of respect for, and I'm actually quite disappointed, is Andy Robinson of Video Game Chronicles. He kind of went super hard upon pause with the games community, and he was trolling, man. Like I think Andy is. I've met him in like IRL, as the kids like to say. Gentleman of a man. He runs VGC. He is the guy. So my interactions with him have been great. I just got to say that I've been a little bit disappointed, but not again. This isn't like piling a rabbit for Andy Robinson. We ain't gonna do that here. But the running narrative, Fuzzy, has been, well, what do I need an Xbox? I could play Gears, I could play Halo, I could play Forza, and everything else eventually is going to get there. So I just have to chill and wait. And you know something? You ain't wrong for that. PlayStation gamers, stand up. There's nothing wrong with playing on the PlayStation 5. If that's your console of choice, man, I could not be more happy for you. My console of choice is Xbox. So now what I want to do is I kind of want to move the conversation over to the right a little bit. And I want to ask you this, and I want to ask the chat this. If this next Xbox is exactly the picture that I and you and Sarah and Phil and now Jez Corden are painting, and this next box that's expected in 2027 is going to be a Xbox PC hybrid, what will you be able to do with this machine? Everything, ladies and gentlemen. You will be able to do everything. And that means play PlayStation games. So I'm wondering when the narrative is going to flip, especially in games media, who I've been incredibly disappointed with, is, well, what do I need a PlayStation? Because I'm going to tell you this right now, ladies and gentlemen. If that Xbox, that's $1,200, that's as powerful as like a 5090 underneath my TV, and I can play Steam, Epic Games Store, Good Old Games, all of my Xbox library, all of the stuff in Xbox Game Pass. Oh, and PS, by the way, I just have to wait a couple of months to get PlayStation games. I'm not buying a PlayStation 6, and that's not being console worry. That's using their logic to my own good, for my own goodwill. I don't need a PlayStation 6 if all I have to do is wait for that game to come over. And folks, here's the thing. Everyone keeps saying, well, they're not going to do day and date. You think? Because if I recall correctly, because of Steam, and Helldivers 2 made gangbuster money, man. And that was on what? PC. And what happened? Day and date. If you think that Sony isn't going to get there, maybe again, Sony does things super slow, but they're going to get there, ladies and gentlemen. And at that point, it's going to be your preference as a gamer where you want to play. If you're on PlayStation and you want to wait for all the Xbox games, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're an Xbox gamer and you have your, you have your bunch of games that you've downloaded over the years and you want to bring your collection with you, you won't have to pay for online multiplayer. You're going to get all your games. You're going to get all your Steam games, and you can play PlayStation games. What the heck do you need a PlayStation 6 for? You won't need one. I'm going to get your thoughts on that, Fuzzy Belvedere.
All right, I was on mute. Yeah, for the most part, when it comes to the way it's shaping out, it is going to be something that you're not going to be able to do with the PlayStation. Like, you're going to have access to their PlayStation library, and that's fine. But with the Xbox, you're going to have access to their PlayStation library that's on PC, just like you said. Plus, there's a lot of games, and I've tried to use this example, knowing how I've had somewhat of a transition to Steam when I got my Steam Deck. There are games that come to Steam that don't come to console right away, or if they do, it might not come to Xbox or PlayStation for some time. Perfect example is Hades 2. Now, yes, the original Hades went to the original Switch before it came to PlayStation or Xbox, but it's been on Steam for about a year, and that's something that if a similar type game comes out, you're going to have access to it earlier through Steam than you would, just sitting on console, which, yeah, you could wait for the PlayStation titles, but I do believe they are going to get closer to that day and date as things move on. Like multiplayer stuff, these games as a service that happen to be left, if they do still release, whether that be Marathon or Fair Games or whatever else they got in the oven kind of thing, those will be day and date titles. But at some point, you're going to see 6 months or less as far as for their single player titles. I think Soros will be one of those titles. I'm actually surprised that it's not being mentioned as being PC and console day and date, but we'll see if that becomes a thing closer to the official release date for that title. Considering how the previous one that they did, Returnal, didn't do as well as they had hoped, and by the time it came to PC, the numbers weren't quite there because the hype for it had already kind of waned away at that point. But yeah, having the Xbox where you could, and this is just for example's sake, and I know some people are asking about like things like Nexus mods, which I'm pretty sure you can figure out a way to get them to work, but then that might, I wouldn't say get you banned, but it might be one of those things where they start detecting certain mods for at least for multiplayer. As far as for single player, I don't think they're really going to care as much because it's not affecting anybody else's experience negatively. The multiplayer is where, and Nexus mods is usually pretty good as far as not having mods for multiplayer games except for like cosmetic stuff. But back to like the whole deal when it comes to games that you don't normally see on console or may never come to console, Escape from Tarkov is one of those where there's a lot of people that would love to try it on console. Now, the inventory management system might be a little more convoluted than what we're used to. Although, if you look at the way Stalker 2 handled the controller and the inventory, I think there is a strong possibility that something like Escape from Tarkov can work. Now, it's not available through Steam. It's available directly through their own. It's not BattleNet, but it's like their own battle eye, or I forget what they call it. But having a game like that that's probably not going to come to console for at least a year and having access to it, sure, you might get your butt handed to you with those, I wouldn't say auto aim PC guys, but mouse and keyboard aim is a lot snappier in comparison, but it at least gives you a chance to try. And they already have a single player version of that, which it took a lot for the community to convince the developer to do so. So this might be one of those things where you get to play it early before it even gets to console. They see that there are a lot of people are accessing it on this new Xbox device. That might push them towards creating an actual console version. So you could be ahead of the curve in a lot of ways. Same thing with No Rest for the Wicked. Although it's a little bit more soulsy than people were hoping for from the Ori developer. But as far as that game, it's going to be a while before it comes to consoles. And it's one of those you have access to earlier. The same thing with Ready or Not. Now it's on console now and it's doing rather well, but just imagine if this Xbox, hybrid had been out earlier, you would have had access to it a lot sooner and been in the community adding feedback of things that console players would like to see that they're actually still working on now as far as with the port to console. So there's so many benefits to having this hybrid device. Will you need a PlayStation? No, unless FOMO gets to you on, the day one releases that don't come to PC right away, which I think over time is going to be less and less of an issue. This device, I think, is going to help move us into where we're focused more so on the games as opposed to the platforms and where you access them. It'll just be a matter of, hey, I got these 5 different devices, whether it's a phone, a tablet, a laptop, a handheld PC, or a console, or a TV with a built-in web browser. You'll have all of those things at the ready to be able to access all of your games wherever you want. I think the big thing that I'm looking forward to with the next gen console, and we're kind of going through the beta test of it now with the Xbox Ally, is the console emulation. Now, console emulation has been something that's existed for a while. In fact, if you put your Series X or S in dev mode, you can actually emulate PS3 games better than what you can do as far as streaming on, not PlayStation Now, but their new, I guess, premium tier when it comes to, accessing some of those older titles via streaming. But I would have to believe that even if the official Xbox console emulation isn't ready until let's say the second year of that device, there will be ways that people will be able to figure it out. And I'm pretty sure we'll start to see some of that where, if we haven't already seen people emulating Nintendo games on their Xbox Ally, although I don't recommend showing that if you have done that with your console. You don't want their lawyers breaking in your windows to grab you and stuff. But it's a much better concept as far as what you'll be able to do when it comes to gaming, having this hybrid device. Will a PS6 be necessary? Probably not. Will a Switch 3 be necessary? Probably not. But we'll see. Although on the Switch 3 aspect of things, legally you would probably need a Switch 3, but if you're not worried about flying the pirate flag, then yeah, you probably won't need a Switch 3. So I'll just leave it at that before Nintendo's lawyers come after me. So,
well, if we get taken off the air, it's your fault. I'm just gonna tell you that right now, Fuzzy Belvedere. I'm gonna blame you. Look, I'll say this, ladies and gentlemen. This is exciting times. I think that the more that we start to hear about what Xbox is doing for the future of the platform, a lot of it is going to be untraveled waters. Obviously, and I look, if you are, clutching the pearls, like the kids like to say, every time an Xbox game is announced for a PlayStation, I'm not gonna, pee on your parade and tell you it's raining, folks. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. You've heard Dirt Griggity and many in the Xbox community talk about it, and we were all in our feelings. We all had some strong emotions about it, but now we've come to the realization that this is just the way business is working. Is it right? Well, I mean that's entirely up to you. I don't like it, but it is what it is. And as long as Halo Campaign Evolved is not launching on the PlayStation 5 as an exclusive and I can't play it as an Xbox player, then I don't really give a shit. And you probably shouldn't either. I know. Look, I'm going to say this. I think that, and we're going to get into that. Because honestly, Fuzzy, I cannot wait to talk about this. I am so excited I'm not going to keep calling it. It's the remake of Combat Evolved. I'm not going to call Campaign Evolved. I keep getting all twisted with that. It's Halo Combat Evolved remade in Unreal Engine 5. It looks dope. We're going to get into it, but I just think that the road that Xbox is traveling is one that is going to be met with criticism. It's going to be met with very little optimism. I think everyone is just expecting them to fail because they're doing things that no other platform has done before it. Yes, Sony has put games on Xbox. It started with MLB the Show. Now it's Helldivers. How many more will it be? Well, it's hard to say. They move a lot slower than Xbox. So I think that they're leaving money on the table. You're going to get people that are going to push back and are going to clip this and be, oh, look, see, they're port begging. Every game that's going to be coming over, or at least what I think is going to be coming over, I already own. I've already beaten most of them, but I would buy them again. I would play them again because I really like Sony's first-party games. I'm sorry, I'm an Xbox guy, yeah, but I like their shit, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what else to tell you, but look, I do want to get caught up on Super Chats. This is big breaking news, and I will, of course, add the Jez Corden article from WindowsCentral.com to the show notes. I will, of course, chop this down later on this evening and make it into a more digestible, smaller, 15 or 20-minute clip. So if you missed it live, you can check it out. Those clips seem to be doing very well. I know there's been some people ask me if why don't we start a clips channel? Folks, let me tell you something. The bandwidth is starting to be stretched very thin. 5 days a week live streams. I chop up the videos, and sometimes, like not last week, the week before, I did 10 videos. That I don't have anybody doing that for me. No AI is getting in here, and I've had people offer to intern. I've had companies want to work with me. Hey, we could do you. I'm a hands-on kind of a content creator. If I'm not doing it, then I know it's not going to get done right. And no offense, but I have a way of doing things, and it's time consuming. First of all, I can't even add another social media platform. Like I know Blue Sky, everyone loves Blue Sky. Awesome. I tried it, and after like 2 days, I was like, you know what? I can't keep up. It's just too much. So we're going to keep doing it the mom and pop way. Let's hope that there are people that find the channel, that enjoy the conversation. Maybe they find a video. I'll do a short of an unboxing of a controller, which I'm backed up on that. I just hope that if you're new and you're enjoying the conversation, please consider subscribing. But let me catch up on Super Chats. And then we got to get into this Halo talk because I am ready to explode with excitement. I'm so excited that this is happening. And I'm going to say something. You know what? I'll save it. I'll save it. Let me catch up on super chats. We have here, and I believe this is Will. Look at me, the broke boy insider. I got it all twisted. So again, they YouTube changed to the at things again. They're so I hate when they just make these changes. I'm sorry, folks. If I don't know who you are, most people I recognize, like Will, of course, and there's a few Cheese is nasty. His name is the same. But some people I don't know because they changed it again. But Will, the former broke boy insider, drops a very generous $5 super chat. Will goes on to say, reading a Game Rant news article titled Steam has 11 big games releasing in November 2025, and guess what is not on that list? Call of Duty Black Ops 7. Game Rant has really fallen off the cliff, man. I used to really like them. I used to read their stuff. I used to use their stuff all the time. I use VGC, and even that, after what happened over the weekend with Andy, I just it's kind of like nails on a chalkboard, man. I look, folks, I get it. It's a business. I totally get it. I'm not what we make here on Double Barrel Gaming isn't being used to pay the mortgage or the rent. It's just not. We don't make that much, ladies and gentlemen. But it does help us do the contests. It does allow us to get new equipment when the other old equipment fails. It does help us with paying for these programs. Some of them are super expensive. I mean, again, the one of the biggest ones is vidIQ. I told you this the other day. That's $600 a year. That's a lot of money for this, and it's just a stat-based PC app. That's all it is. But it helps us on the back end with all the numbers for YouTube. And there's a lot more that goes into it, for allow us to do the artwork and the recording and the editing. All that stuff is money, and that's why we super appreciate anything that we get here. But for some of these other sites that do have employees that they pay their insurance and everything, they got to do these egregious things to make the money. And I don't agree with it, folks. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I think it's egregious, but it's just a business. It's gross. But Curly Low K 98 drops a very generous $2 super chat. Curly goes on to say, Microsoft PC market plus Xbox equals Xbox Magnus. Yeah, I mean, again, that's something that we're not going to get into, but some of the talk that I have seen about, this is the next Xbox, it's going to be, powerful, but it's going to be expensive. You think? I mean, I don't know. I kind of sort of writing on the wall. I don't know why anybody's surprised. And of course, you get these knuckleheads. Yeah, well, the PlayStation 6 is going to be $450. FU Xbox. My God, are you 10? Because if you are, I have a bridge to sell you. Go into your mom and pop's pocketbook, take that credit card, hand it over to me. It's going to be all right. I'll tell you that right now. Jay Rambert in the chat has been a channel member for 11 months. So, Jay, great to see you here, brother. And thank you so much for the generosity. He says, if it's true about the paywall, Stoney will panic. Look, I don't know if they would. But here's the thing. These next generation consoles, I don't care what flavor that you like, they're going to be costly. I don't think there's going to be a one size fit all Xbox. I think there's going to be multiple SKUs. And I really think because it's going to be PC based, I think they can get away with a lesser powerful whatever they're going to call it, Magnus. They're going to have the entry model one. Maybe the entry model one is $700, $800, and maybe the big boy is $1,200. But these consoles, they're not taking losses. They're not going to take losses on the back end. These companies, they're going to make you pay for what you want. You want to stay behind on old hardware. There's nothing wrong with that. There are people still right now today in this chat who play on Xbox One X and S, or play on a PS4 or PS4 Pro. There's nothing wrong with that. If you can't afford to spend the money, listen, at least you're playing games. But we're gonna see. It's gonna be a very interesting picture to watch what Sony, how they react if this in fact comes to fruition. Cheese is nasty drops a very generous $5 super chat. He goes on to say that explains why Game Pass is $30 to offset the no paywall multiplayer. I'll stick to PC, but those who getting a next Xbox hope you enjoy. That's a very interesting thought. I listen. This is just a breaking news story. We don't really we don't know the full minutia of it. I'm sure Jez Corden, who's a freaking amazing journalist, is probably working on that. We'll get more details, but again, it's just the story just broke 2 hours ago. We have a little bit of information, and it is worthy of a conversation. But I am going to say that I wonder what it looks like if the next gen Xbox is more PC than console. How does that change? How do they merge Xbox PC Game Pass with the regular Game Pass? Does it drop in price? It's gonna be very interesting to watch. Eris_EMS has done it again, ladies and gentlemen. He has gifted 5 Double Barrel Gaming memberships. That is incredibly kind of you, brother. Thank you so much for the generosity, as always. And look at me, the broke boy drops a very generous $5 super chat. And Will goes on to say, but that Game Rant article does have the PlayStation console exclusive where wins meet that releases that very same day. But nah, media has no bias. Yep, that's right. I did a video that I think that it was from the Breakfast with Boom episode on Friday with Fuzzy Belvedere and Corkenstein. It's a little long. It's about 48 minutes, but it is packed with me as an attorney, or playing an attorney anyway, giving you the full breakdown on why it's been proven that there's Xbox tax. Whether you want to not call it that and call it a bias, or just put your head in the sand and say there's no such thing, boom, you are wearing a tinfoil kufi, like Keasante says, that's fine. My kufi is green because I like Xbox, ladies and gentlemen. So it covers the mohawk, very nice. But listen, Fuzzy Belvedere, we got to get into this Halo topic. What can I say, folks? We all knew this was happening. Rebs Gaming, Mintz, Blitz on X, been talking about it for weeks. I'm not sad that the cat was out of the bag. I'm I guess a little saddened because I was under the impression that because it was the Halo Championships that we would get a glimpse into what they're doing with multiplayer. Now, this is going to have a lot of peaks and valleys, this particular Halo conversation, because there are people that are disappointed that it doesn't have multiplayer. Well, here's why I'm not. The original release in 2001 was a single player campaign. You played it, you beat it, you tried to beat it on the hardest level like every Halo player has done, and you had fun with it. Now, granted, eventually it came to PC and there was a multiplayer. I don't need this thing to have multiplayer. And why I believe it doesn't is because whatever they decide multiplayer is going to look like, I don't think it's going to be on the Unreal Engine 5. I just don't. I don't think it's going to be on Slipspace either. This could be a new engine built from the ground up, the same way Slipspace was, and that is what is going to run your multiplayer. As a matter of fact, moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but it makes too much sense. I think the teams need to be split. I think multiplayer needs to be on this side of the room. Let them cook. Let them work. Do not concern them at all with single player. And on this side of the room, it should be single player only campaigns. Release schedules do not have to go and shoulder to shoulder. I know that's crazy. I know people are going to be boomy with the virtual tomatoes here. I don't think it has to be at the same time. I think that whatever the multiplayer is going to look like, it is going to be announced for Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation. It is going to be a running service game like Fortnite, like Apex Legends, like Marvel Rivals. It's going to live. It's probably going to be free to play, and it's going to live on its own island. It could stay there, and I will get to that island and enjoy the shit out of it because I love Halo multiplayer. But we are talking about single player, and my God, Fuzzy Belvedere, what a showing.
Yeah.
I will say my only disappointment, and that's because the channel is still too small. I did not get an invite to play this thing. I'm one of the biggest Halo fans in this community. I love the lore. I've read a lot of the books. I've beaten every game. I have over 23 days in Halo Infinite right now. And I would have it'd have been my Christmas morning to be able to go back and play this, but it didn't happen, and that's fine. Maybe the next time. But I'm going to tell you this. I have been so excited for this, Fuzzy, that I have watched that 13-minute gameplay trailer, video, whatever you want to call it, probably around 6 times. And I'm probably going to watch it another 6. It looks stunning. I'm not going to bring us down to the negativity of it. I just want to get your thoughts on how freaking amazing this remake of what really set forth what first-person shooters on consoles look and act like. Chief is back, and they're going to be celebrating this in a big way next year. And yes, it's coming to PlayStation, but I got a feeling, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to sell like gangbusters there, because I always say this. Current PlayStation 5 users were PlayStation 4 users. Those players, the casuals, the ones that don't get into the console war, that don't care what this one is saying or that one is doing, they just want to play good games. The PlayStation gamers, they, not all of them, of course, but a good chunk of them migrated over from the Xbox 360 thanks to the dreaded 2013, right? And a lot of those players stayed with PlayStation, and that's awesome, right? But now they don't have to move back to Xbox. They're going to get an opportunity to play Halo Combat Evolved Remake on their PlayStation 5s. I think it's great. I mean, again, I would have not said these words 2 years ago. I'd have been in my feelings. I'd have been maybe even throwing a temper tantrum over it. But I have come to the realization that it just is what it is. And it's going to be, I just want this to make Halo great again. I want it to become one of the mainstay first-person shooters. And is it going to, reclaim the crown because of going to PlayStation 5? I can't say. But all I'm saying is that if more people are playing Halo, there's a good chance it could still run with the Call of Duties, with the Apex Legends, with the Fortnites more specifically, or even pick your favorite free-to-play game. I think there's an opportunity here to bring Halo back in a super big way. And this was an amazing first step. I want to get your thoughts on the gameplay trailer for, and I'll say it, Halo Campaign Evolved. I'm sorry, it's such a drag to say it like that, but it's fine. Let me get your thoughts.
Well, I think the big thing is, in Unreal Engine, it looks amazing. Like, I think everybody was concerned as far as how it feels to play, and we'll find that out when we get it in hand. But the overall visuals, I think, did it justice as far as, like, it was great looking when it was originally released, and for modern day hardware, it looks even better in a fantastic way, as far as everything from the environments to the skins on the the enemies and things along those lines. The visuals have definitely been modernized and updated in a way that's jaw dropping. The only thing I would say, as far as like not having the multiplayer at this moment, I think the big thing is, and to, like, just like you said, there are a good bit of PlayStation guys that were Xbox 360 guys over in the PlayStation camp. But for those that may not have, touched the 360, like much like myself, I didn't bother the 360, although I came to Xbox in the Xbox One generation. For those that didn't, migrate over from PlayStation and never bothered with the 360, this is a perfect opportunity to at least get them acclimated with the story, get them invested in the lore, get them invested in the movement and just the overall, like, I wouldn't say spectacle, but the I guess the visuals as far as the gameplay and everything involved with that before you throw them into the multiplayer. Not saying that they can't play multiplayer, but it would definitely sour the first impression if you give them this amazing looking game that has multiplayer and they haven't gotten accustomed to it yet and get slaughtered on the battlefield. Like, I don't think that would go over very well with it, growing in popularity over on the PlayStation platform. So at least get them acclimated with the story first and let them, soak in the visuals and things like that. And I think considering the PlayStation, brand mainly focuses on like your single player story driven narratives, even though this being the first person, the visuals are still up to par as far as what they're accustomed to. So let them soak in that story first, get used to it, get that first taste of Halo, and then when you eventually release the multiplayer, that's when they'll at least be a little bit more comfortable or used to it. Aside from those that were already playing Halo back before they switched over to PlayStation, so I think that's probably at least that's my view on how or why they didn't release multiplayer at launch. But to me, that makes sense because it's kind of the same thing they did with the Gears Reloaded kind of deal. I think the big thing is let those guys get used to one segment at a time as opposed to bombarding them with all of the Gears multiplayer maps and things along those lines from jump, and then having it where they haven't even gotten accustomed to doing wall bouncing yet. So I think it's for me, it's a little bit different because, like I said, I came from PlayStation in the PS4 and Xbox One generation. I was somebody that was never really interested in Killzone and didn't have that much interest in Halo. Did play 5, enjoyed 5, played a little bit of 4, and played a good bit of Halo Infinite. So there isn't as much of that attachment for me with it going over the PlayStation. I think there was more attachment for Forza Horizon 5 going over there. But to me, once they sent Sea of Thieves over there, it only made sense to have this multiplayer, always alive or live service type of racing game, considering Sony was mainly known for racing with, Gran Turismo and Drive Club and things like that. And there's no more arcade racers really for them from a first party. It made sense for, Forza Horizon to go over there at that point. So for me, Halo is the next progressive step. Same thing when Gears went over there earlier in the year. So I think this notion where Xbox becoming multi-platform, we see the strides or the moves that they've made. I still am going to feel a certain way about Starfield, and it's not because I don't want PlayStation players to play it. That doesn't bother me. It's just Colin Moriarty being right about something is more of a bother than people playing the game. But that's just me. Maybe I'm silly in that regard. But Halo going over there, it hopefully will build the audience for those that have never experienced Halo prior, and then this will make it so now there's 2 first-person shooters that are big names within the PlayStation community from Xbox or Microsoft gaming in general between Call of Duty and Halo.
Yep.
And the best way for these studios to continue making sequels and getting greenlit to experiment with different things. Like I'm still hoping for that horror game with the flood on like an abandoned ring or something like that. Maybe this is the way to finance that, with seeing if there's enough interest on the PlayStation platform and enough sales there where Halo Studios has a lot more freedom or leeway to be able to try different things and experiment. Like I would love to see a third-person perspective Halo game at some point. I know that's not what the fan base may want, but I think as far as trying things new and growing the brand, I think that's something that they should consider. But putting it on PlayStation doesn't negatively affect me in any way. It's just a matter of this player base. If they grab hold to this title, that just means that there'll be more Halo, subsequent titles, whether it's campaigns, single player games coming out that they experiment with, or just more multiplayer stuff that that has a lot more support from day one as far as their seasons and things like that. So I look at it as a positive overall, but I still don't understand why they call it campaign evolved as opposed to combat evolved. But I don't know. Maybe they have some sort of reasoning that I missed or completely flew over my head. But all in all, it looks awesome.
Well, look, there wasn't anything that I didn't like about that trailer. I saw, side to side, like 2001 versus 2026 when it's going to come out. Yeah, they got work to do, folks. There's no doubt about it. I know I saw a lot of people talking about, clipping. Unreal Engine 5 is known for clipping. Folks, look, when this game comes out next year, and it's probably going to launch on November 15th, right? It only makes sense. They're not going to, I know November 15th, I looked it up, and shout out to Sith Lord who made mention of this. I think November 15th actually falls on a Sunday, which, you know what? I mean, listen, it's going to be Halo Day no matter when it falls, Monday through whatever. So it's going to be on a Sunday. I still think they could do something. Are they going to release a game on a Sunday? I mean, if you're trying to keep it a buck, like the kids like to say, then yes, you are. But I do want to move into some of the negativity that I saw. And again, I'm not going to put this into the video because it's just negative, but I want to, get the pulse of the community. But before we get there, I want to give a big happy birthday to James Thomas in the chat. James, happy birthday, brother. I don't know how old you are. You're probably not as old as me. I'm 55, so I'm the oldest bastard in the room for sure. But happy birthday to James Thomas. Hey, chat, can we give this man his flowers or his birthday cake? Wish James Thomas a very happy birthday. I would definitely appreciate it. I'm sure he would as well. But look, so again, I don't like the negativity thing, but we got to have this conversation, Fuzzy. Look, I've seen this written by many people, journalists that I appreciate, and I've had this conversation with people that are they're not journalists, they're just gamers like me. And I got to tell you, man, that Halo community is so fickle. It is. I don't know what they want. I said it earlier. I don't know if they know what they want. Because obviously there was a lot of conversation, Fuzzy, and you and I were here for it, where they didn't like the way Chief looked in slip space, right?
Yeah.
They didn't like the way it felt. Oh, a grappling hook. Well, why is there a grappling hook? Why can't I just be this lumbering, Frankenstein that doesn't, move? He's a super soldier, but he moves like he's got molasses on his feet. Look. Some of the complaints that I saw were, and I'm not gonna put anybody on blast because I ain't about that life and embarrassing anybody. I saw one guy have about 17 posts about Sprint, and it was just the one guy, the one XU, 17 posts about Sprint. Now I didn't know this until this morning because Keasante let me know, but apparently you don't have to sprint. That could be shut off. So if you want to be this slow moving Resident Evil style tank that just is like a giant GoBot, good for you. You can go and do that. But you know what's crazy to me? That's not enough, Fuzzy. And I'm laughing because, and I'm not trying to make fun of people. That's why I don't mention names. But even with the fact that you can turn it off, I read several posts that said, well, it shouldn't be there in the first place. You shouldn't have. So wait a second. You're saying that if you, as the gamer, you want this lungering Hulk thing to not move fast, that's okay. Play how you want to play. You're getting angry at Halo Studios for giving me the option to sprint down a course. Listen, folks, I barely have time to play a game. I don't have 15 minutes for Chief to get from one end of the freaking library to the other. I mean, are we kidding me? What are we talking about? But you see, that's not where it ends. Now, I thought it was dope because detail, right? They have the ability to get some really incredible detail.
Yeah.
So here's one, ladies and gentlemen. And you know what? I'm going to pull up the chat because I want to, folks. If you read anything stupid, because that's what this ultimately is, throw it into the chat. I will read what you wrote. Don't got to be a super chat. Just throw it into the chat because I've seen some doozies. This is another one, ladies and gentlemen. One poster, who will remain nameless, of course, said that they were mortified at the fact that the needler had a counter on the back of the weapon. Are you kidding me? Really? Like that? After what we saw, that's what it had a counter on the back. Look, ladies and gentlemen, modern gaming, what can I tell you? That's, this is what it's going to look like. Now, I know a lot of people are really bent out of shape about it being on Unreal Engine 5. They call it this, this stutter fest. I cannot wait to hear what Umbra has to say because, he's Mr. Unreal Engine. We're going to get his thoughts on this tomorrow. But, I mean, could you imagine, again, we only saw 13 minutes of gameplay. Could the whole rest of the game be just complete terrible? Yes, but it's unlikely. I have to say that after seeing this, I believe that Halo is not only going to come back, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to come back in a big way. I think that Halo Studios, despite all of the reports of it having management issues and all the kinds of stuff that, people leaving and this, that, and the third. I mean, I'll say this. I'm excited for the future of the franchise. I know that we have some quotes here from some of the people that are working on it about how this is literally going to pave a way for what they're doing next on Halo. I'm excited for it. But Fuzzy, let's get some of your thoughts on the negativity surrounding this, because again, that was a lot. I saw people complaining about it because it was shown at a multiplayer event, and I guess the optics isn't great because it's the single player, but it's the biggest Halo event of the year. When else are you supposed to show this? Like, sure, you can do your own developer direct, but there's a Halo. Everyone is watching these Halo championships. Of course, you want to put a Halo game up front and personal. Now, granted, it would have been great if there was a multiplayer where they showed us the future of it, but that's not ready to be shown. So it's okay. They showed what was ready. I walked away incredibly impressed. I want to get your thoughts on some of again, instead of being happy and positive that there's a new old Halo game that looks this good coming out next year, holy shit, you should be excited. There's negativity.
Yeah, I've said this on other podcasts, and I'm starting to think that there's a segment of gamers that don't enjoy the hobby anymore. I don't know if it's social media that's made it where doom scrolling leads into more of this negative outlook on anything gaming related, but I do understand some of the criticisms. But the key thing from the event standpoint, sure, it would have been nice if they were introducing a multiplayer, but would you rather them wait until June, possibly? Like, I'm not sure on the release date for 2026, but would you rather wait until June to hear something about Halo? Because then all the rumors would swirl about, well, we haven't heard anything about Halo in a while, so they must be closing down since people are leaving. And so it's either that, or you can't really have Halo at a partnered showcase that we're going to get in November. The Dev Direct come January is probably going to be more centered around Forza Horizon, Clockwork, maybe State of Decay, as well as Fable. So I don't know. I think this was a better place to show in comparison to saving that for the VGAs, let's say. So I get, while some people may not see the relevance as far as showing a single player and multiplayer event, I get it. This was probably their best opportunity without seeming weird. Now, on the weapon, like the Needler, this is where the next generation Xbox will probably come in handy as far as Nexus mods or mods in general, because if you don't like the way it looks, hey, it's part PC, so I'm pretty sure you can change the skin, at least on the single player. I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to do that without much hassle, because there will be enough people that'll be like, you know what, I like the way the Needler looks, the original Needler looks, and it'll just be a skin change kind of thing. Like I get it. The crystals disappear as you run low on ammo, so you don't really need a counter. But I don't know. I get the nitpick, but it's moving on kind of thing. But I don't want to pick on the Halo community, because this happens with every game. Like even somebody like me, I have a wide varying difference of opinion on certain things for Forza Horizon. Like I know this may sound silly being that it's a racing game, but I'm all for them expanding on a character creator, or like your own housing and the garage space where you can display your cars. Most people are like, well, that doesn't make sense in a racing game. But they're kind of going with that whole lifestyle of almost like GTA without the gun violence kind of thing. So why not have those extra steps in there? And considering that they're using tech and Fable for character creator kind of stuff, why not show some of that as well as in a racing game? Because I think those are the things that people look for in comparison to other titles out there. Like, what was it? Test Drive Unlimited, Solar Crown. That was one of the things that they were selling. Hey, you can have your own place and you can decorate it the way you want and all that. And I know that may sound silly once again for a racing game, but that's a selling feature, that, hey, you have a chill spot. Like after you've done races with your friends or get races against the AI, you have a place where you can like display your cars or watch your replays and things along those lines. I don't think that's too much to ask. I mean, if it's at the sacrifice of more cars in the game, then yeah, let it slide or fall off on the wayside. But also a Division player, there's always been the debate about a PvE dark zone, which I would say if you're going to have that, make it so it's not going to take away from the PvP aspect of the game, where it's more so for reconnaissance, which that was the whole reason why a lot of people wanted a single player version of Escape from Tarkov, because you're not going to get used to the map if you're getting, sniped from one of the towers as soon as you walk in the map. It's like, oh, I just spent 10 minutes waiting to get loaded in to die in less than 2 minutes by getting sniped by somebody I don't even know or didn't even see across the map kind of thing. If you have a PvE version, at least you can say, okay, well, these are areas that I have a little bit better coverage, or this is where they usually have like the key cards and things like that. So you can get a better idea of how to, when you finally do go into that map, what to do and how to go about doing it, as opposed to wasting time and loading and losing gear and stuff like that, or playing as a scav. The Division, it was the same thing. It's like, at least allow that for reconnaissance. I mean, some people, the first experience that they have in the dark zone is coming out of that building and getting sniped. Although I think in Division 2 they put the turrets up there, but there's ways around the turrets, so people would find a way to still snipe you as soon as you come out of that little safety area and things along those lines. So it is what it is. But I just wish people would allow games to evolve. And if the evolution of that game isn't to your liking, then you can pass on it or turn that feature off. Having those additional options, bringing more people into the fold, I know some people will see that as diluting the game itself, but I think it allows the game to grow and continue. Because if you still had the same Halo game that you had, what was that, like 12 years ago or so, you're not going to have the same audience from 12 years ago, because a lot of those people have moved on to other games or have transitioned into different genres that they now enjoy more so than the first-person shooter genre. Keeping the game stagnant without any room of movement or change causes it to die off. Why do you think Call of Duty changed their movement with the Omni movement, which brought more people to the fold? And I mean, now some people will probably complain about that, but the minute they take that away, there'll be a certain group of fans that'll be up in arms about it. So you want your game to evolve for it to stay relevant and stay, popular enough for the devs to continue supporting it. And that's all I see as far as like some of these, micro changes or additional features and things like that, where the game will be at least able to survive and long enough in this climate. Well, not in this climate, but like in comparison to a game like Concord, where when they were building it, but it was probably more relevant, 8 years ago when they started development, to have that type of a shooter or team shooter kind of thing. But by the time it came out, it was already behind the curve. So allowing the game to have more modern, features or updates and things like that, especially ones that you can turn off as an option, I think is the way that most devs need to go moving forward. But that's just my 2 cents.
I mean, and it's a great 2 cents. I think that when we see the final product of this, and again, I don't know for sure, folks. I'm just kind of spitballing here. What I think is ultimately going to happen is there's the one thing that, I mean, listen, if they're already talking about having the ability to sprint as being a big problem for some people, you can turn it off. So when you push an L1, I mean L3, you're not going to sprint. You know what? Options are great, ladies and gentlemen. Options are phenomenal. Um, what I think they should do is give the gamer the option of how they want to play, as long as it's not a detriment to the actual game. They are retelling the story, but it's not going to be that big of a change. Now, you know what? I also forgot to make mention of, and I do want to add this to the conversation. Fuzzy, I want to get your thoughts on this because, yes, this is going to be a faithful remake. They've done a lot of, quality of life things that I'm going to be very happy to use and play, specifically sprint being one of them. But what I think went over a lot of people's heads is this gonna have new missions, 3 prequel missions where you're gonna be fighting. Chief is gonna be fighting alongside one of the series' most beloved characters, Sergeant Johnson, man. Like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like that, you lead with that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand how this got overlooked by so many people. I think that the hate mongering for Sprint has really blinded a lot of people. When they said that, I said, whoa, hold on a sec. You're going to give us Halo Combat Evolved in Unreal Engine 5. It's going to look that good, play as good as I saw it playing, and you're giving us 3 never before used or seen missions where it's going to be Chief and Sergeant Johnson? Holy shit, are you kidding me? And check this out. I'm going to read an excerpt from their breakdown. It says, new missions. Fight beside Sergeant Avery Johnson, one of the Master Chief's most beloved and stalwart allies, as you encounter new characters, enemies, environments, and dangers in the 3 new missions set before the events of Halo Combat Evolved. And folks, look, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm going to be honest with you. I probably shouldn't have not forgotten about this because I saw some talk, and I don't know this is happening, but what if you get to be involved in Reach somehow? What if they bring it back to the fall of Reach and somehow Master Chief is involved with Sergeant Avery? I don't know if they're going to bring it that far back, but it's happening before the events of Halo Combat Evolved. That is amazing. They confirmed stunning cinematics, battle through all of Halo Combat Evolved's iconic moments with enhanced cinematics featuring new motion capture animations and freshly recorded dialogue from the returning cast members. And we, of course, know that both Cortana, the voices of Cortana and Master Chief, are going to be reprising their roles. That is awesome. And finally, you're going to be getting enhanced audio. And it says here, immerse yourself in heroic exploits with a remastered soundtrack and fully rebuilt sound design that brings Halo's unmistakable weapons and vehicles to life in stunning fidelity. Just listen to those glorious hums. Look, I know that I left this out originally, and I'm sorry that I did, but I'm going to, of course, cut up the video because, Fuzzy, before we get on out of here, we got to talk about this. 3 never before prequel missions. If it was just that, I'd be excited. But you're getting the whole game remade in glorious Unreal Engine 5. It looks that good, sounds that good, and it probably plays that good. But now we're getting all this extra stuff. Before we get out of here, I want to get your thoughts on that because that is a really big deal. This is not cut and paste, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
You should be excited.
I think it gives them some leeway to experiment in future either remakes and things along those lines. Like having those 3 additional missions, like you said, what if that now creates a future spinoff where they can now retell a different story or tell you a story that was only in the books and things like that, as opposed to in any previous game. So I like that they're doing those additional features and additional missions for that fact, because if they're well received, if people are like, I want more of that, then that more than likely means that there will be more stuff like that greenlit.
Yes.
This definitely allows them to come into their own. Yes, I know a lot of people want them to reprise everything Bungie related when it comes to Halo, but just like, although it's a little bit of a different situation with Rare, just like Rare doesn't want to reprise their old games, you don't want a studio that may or may not have some of Bungie's former, staff, doesn't want to necessarily reprise or redo things like for what they did, 10, 20 years ago. So having that, update, I think is something that as fans, we should all kind of look forward to kind of see what might be like an inkling or insight into what we will see in a future title, and allowing them that freedom to try things. I mean, if it bombs, it bombs in those 3 missions, and then we'll more than likely voice our frustration or complaints with it in that regard. But I think if they land well, that gives them an idea of where to take a spin-off. And I've always wanted them to do more spin-offs. Like I said earlier, a third-person perspective, and I know that's probably like heresy when it comes to the Halo
No, man, try something different, bro. Walk a different path. I would freaking go crazy for a third person. It doesn't have to be Master Chief. It could be a different character.
Yeah, and that gives them room to try some things. And I know somebody had made mention earlier, like imagine a first-person perspective of like a Halo Wars 3. Try different things, because trying the same stuff and getting the same result, or trying different things and winding up with the same result, is a definition of crazy or something along those lines. I probably got it all backwards there, but I would like to see them try some different things, just so they keep a fresh perspective on the lore, and hopefully attract more people into the fold as far as for the Halo community, because that's the way you grow the community these days when you're competing with your Apex Legends or your Fortnites and things like that.
I mean, listen, it's Halo, folks. We're getting a new old Halo. I know that there's people are going to be upset one way or another, and the Halo community is just like the Star Wars community. You can't please anybody. Like, there is no one side. See, I'm my glass is always half full, and I'm always happy and excited to be playing games, because I still appreciate where I came from. And that's what makes me a grounded gamer. I started in 78 with sticks and dots, and look what I have in front of me now. What is there not to like about this? And Halo coming back and looking as gorgeous as it did. You're sure there's going to be a nitpick here or there, but folks, what happened to the games community that has become so effing miserable? They want to hate on absolutely everything and love nothing. Listen, if those are the waters you like swimming in, good on you, man. I am not about that life. I'm here to promote positivity, talk about games like you're supposed to, because we're having fun. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. The 3-letter word that people really forgot about, having fun. And I'm sorry that we have to wait an entire year. And it's actually a little bit more than that, because if they go by the numbers and it comes out mid-November in 26, which is, that's the anniversary. So of course they're gonna hold it for that. We're not even out of October yet. We're almost there. We have over a year of having to wait for this. So if you saw something you didn't like, you saw some screen tearing, you saw some stuttering, folks, it's a pre-build, man. I mean, Just be happy of what you saw. I mean, there wasn't one Craig incident in the whole thing. You should be happy, right? So look, at the end of the day, like what you like, love what you love. But let me catch up on super chats, and then we'll get everyone on out of here. We have here the Bay Area 7546 Bay Area. Thanks so much for joining, and of course, thank you very much for the very generous $5 super chat. And Bay Area goes on to say, if this new Xbox, the new Xbox Magnus plays GTA 6 day one via the Xbox, copy it, shatter every. I guess you meant to say it will shatter every narrative that the fake neutral journalists and ponies can throw at it. I have a strong suspicion that it is going to be able to run GTA. I don't think that's a question. I am going to tell you this though, and this is what Bay Area. Check this out. Maybe you didn't think about this. Maybe you did. So the new Xbox, or the rumored pair of SKUs for next generation for Xbox, one is going to be the big boy. One's going to be, again, it's a rumor that it's going to be a dockable, S model, if you will, which I think that's the way to go. Bring a more cheaper model of entry for people that do not everybody's going to spend $1,200, folks. It's just not. I mean, I'll do it because I'm a stand for Xbox, but that's fine. I know who I am. What if next holiday, which is where I believe GTA is going, they could say May all they want, but it's Rockstar, and you know how they like to roll. I have a strong suspicion it's going to miss May. And that's just my thoughts. I have no idea whether it's true, but it's Rockstar. They've done this a gazillion times over. If that thing got moved into the holiday, let's just say for shits and giggles, and that Asus next generation Xbox that is going to be very beefy, very powerful, can run GTA, and GTA is running on this thing the best on. Listen, you can take whatever stories that Detective Seeds have said, and he guy has his connections about, Sony sending over a team of, technicians to get GTA running the best on PlayStation 5 at 60 frames on the Pro, on the regular. That's all great. But if this new OEM device comes out, and it's going to be an Xbox, so you'll be able to play your Xbox games from the Xbox store. If that MF runs GTA better, folks, I'm here to tell you that people are going to move over because of what we talked about to open up the show. At some point or another, you as the gamer will have to make a decision of whether or not a 2 or 3 consoles in your living room is worth it anymore. And if you have the ability to stay on PlayStation and play Xbox games, you're not going to buy an Xbox. You're just going to pay for the games. You're not going to be a part of Xbox Game Pass, and that's okay. But if you are an Xbox player who doesn't really care or don't need Sony day and date games, and you're willing to wait, you will continue to support Xbox. You'll be able to play your Steam library, your Epic Game Store, your good old games, as well as Sony's games at some point or another. But if you can play GTA the best on that machine, better than the PlayStation 5, better than the Series X, you're going to see a lot of people converting over and getting their feet wet into PC. But again, this is all hypothetical stuff, folks. We have literally no idea. But a big thank you to all of the super chats. Actually, we got a couple more, as a matter of fact, before we get on out of here. We have Curly Low-K drops a very, I know I'm messing up the name Curly, so I apologize for that, but he drops 2 additional, very generous $2 super chats. The first one says, Halo Wars in first person would be sick. Halo Wars, anything would be sick. I'd love to see the Halo Wars 3, but if they did that shit in first person, I'm going to be greedy and say, if you do 3 in first person, you got to go back and remake 1 and 2. Sorry to give you the work, folks, but you're going to have to. Curly's third, very generous $2 super chat says, if BC of media people are comfortable whining, Yeah, it's because of me. Yeah, you're not wrong. It's because of media people are comfortable of whining. You know, a gaming journalist, ladies and gentlemen, is no different than me and you. That's just their job. That's it. They have their biases, they have their likes. A lot of them are young. How young? I mean, not in their teens. If they're writing for Forbes or something, they had to have gone to school to land a job like that. At least I hope so. Um, but they're in their late 20s, maybe early 30s, right? And they grew up with what? PlayStation. That's their brand. And if we're being honest, the hate click ratio for Xbox negative news, it sells. Like I tell you all the time, in here in New York, if it bleeds, it leads. That's just the way news works. So if you're a good guy and you do good things, you're on the back page. You're an asshole and you commit murder, front page. Make it make sense. It just doesn't. So with gaming journalism, they're taught that you have to write about the click, and the click ratio has become more important than the story. And unfortunately, that has ruined games media, which is why I only have a handful of people that I read their stuff. But thank you so much for the additional generosity, and not to be outdone. And someone that is going to be in the New York area vacationing, Nino Vestic, flying all the way from Hawaii. Brother, thank you so much for the very generous, gifted, double barrel gaming membership. And I would imagine you're going to be in Manhattan, which, as a New York City police officer for 21 years, I hate the city. I hate the city because it's so crowded. And I only worked in Manhattan when I had to do overtime and I was making big bucks. Otherwise, I couldn't freaking stand it. It's just too many people. And if something's going to happen, it's probably going to happen in Manhattan. I was a Bronx guy. I loved, I was unable, see, for me, this is a story that you won't hear from anyone else. The precinct that I spent my entire career is in the community that I grew up as a kid. So for me, I went to a precinct that I didn't know any of the cops. I was never really in trouble, so I never was at the precinct. But the precinct was located in where I grew up. So it was covered the school which I went to. It covered the projects that I grew up in. So I was a neighborhood kid that came back to be a cop. You don't really hear those kind of stories, and it was incredible. It was one of the most gratifying experiences I've ever had in my entire life. And serving that community as a professional for all those years was awesome. I am going to say I love the Bronx, and I will always be a Bronx guy. I freaking hated Manhattan as a cop. I hated going down there because anytime you were in Manhattan, you were going to be there for a long, because it was details. And whether it be the West Indian Day Parade in Brooklyn or just any of the parades in Manhattan, those are 15-hour days, and you are standing for almost all of that time. I freaking hated it. So if you're coming to New York, enjoy the sights, enjoy the sounds. Do not worry about what I'm saying. I say just watch your six with your family. Be careful, because it's not the safest of cities like it used to be. Unfortunately, crime is it's crime ridden, but I'm sure you're going to have a good time. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for walking with me on my flashback to when I was a police officer. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation that Fuzzy Belvedere and I had about the breaking news, thanks to Jez Corden of Windows Central, regarding the paywall coming down potentially for the next generation Xbox. And of course, on the back end of the show, talking about that amazing Halo footage, 13 minutes. And I'm probably going to watch it again because, damn, it looked really good. But Fuzzy Belvedere, let's sell the brand, because obviously this next Friday is, the last day of Halloween, but Halloween is Saturday. But obviously, the Missus has a horror channel. You guys have been really putting out the good content. Obviously, it's going to be a big show for this Friday. Sell the brand of your wife's YouTube channel called Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. Folks, if you want to check out that show, and you should, especially if you are a fan of horror, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Times each and every Friday. Sell the brand, brother. Where can people subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow you guys on social media?
As always, love doing this podcast on Monday afternoons with you, Boom. Always love the breaking news aspect, as well as just talking about, stuff happening in the industry and all the games coming out and some of the future hardware down the road and stuff. and always love interacting with the chat. Love you guys. Always love talking about gaming, even if we don't always see eye to eye on the games we like and stuff. It's still a fun time. Always look forward to it. And for those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just do a search for Fuzzy Belvedere. You'll be able to find me on social media. Although I'm not on social media as much as I used to because I'm playing a lot more games. It seems more fun to play games than to play Twitter. But outside of that, for those that love horror movies and horror games and things like that, definitely check out Friday Night with Ferocious Feet. I put the link in the chat. We're going to be talking about a series of independent movies on Friday. We're going back to the Everett Theater, which is a haunted theater, but they're also going to be playing some of the independent films there at that night. So things like Swine and Dine, Mama's Pound Cake, which is like a music video more so than a horror short, but it is kind of a cool horror short that plays out like a music video, but the actual lyrics are ingredients for the pound cake. So definitely check it out. We'll be putting links on our channel and everything for that. But everybody out there, be safe. Play as many video games as you have the free time to play. Be safe for the holidays, for Halloween parties and such. Just have fun out there. Be safe and have fun. And hope to see everybody here in the chat on Friday for Breakfast with Boom. Hope to see you guys then.
Absolutely. And of course, shout out to KS Lounge, who just popped in on the back end. We're going to try and get him back next week. He was stuck at work. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here. I got a bunch of stuff to do before Mrs. Boom gets home. But I want to thank everybody that took the time to check out today's show. If you liked the conversation, please hit the like button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down button. That's fine. It's engagement is engagement. And listen, we're slowly but surely moving up. We are a couple away from being able to say that we're at 16.3. We're definitely not getting to 17K by the end of the year unless something really happens, and we don't know. But if you're not subscribed, ladies and gentlemen, please consider subscribing. We would greatly appreciate any new subs that we get. And of course, drop a comment. I try to read them. I try to answer as much as I can. But, again, folks, I'm just a one-man show here. So sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming. But of course, a big thank you to all of the super chats, all of the gifted memberships, as well as the subs that come in on the back end. So a big thank you. Mrs. Boom and I do greatly appreciate the generosity. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully one day be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And it would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.